Good evening and welcome to the Velocity of Now, running about, 17 minutes too late this evening. We had some technical problems. These things happen. We're not the BBC. We don't have those kind of funds, and we're here anyway. Everything's great. This is the Velocity of Now, me, your host, Thomas Sheridan. It's the 20th of May, 2015, and I trust you're all keeping well. My website is thomassheridanarts.com. And you can read the articles there. If you want to help me out, there's a book you can buy. And thank you for here. Thank you for being part of this conversation. It's an auspicious day here in Sligo. Today we had Prince Charles visiting Carmilla. I was going to look for a young blonde woman with a short haircut and put a chain around her neck and show up with a sign, her holding a sign saying brood mare for rent. Reasonable rates, limited time only, but it wasn't to be. There was like a police state lockdown here today. I've never seen so many police horses and police dogs, and so it was nice. It was nice playing with them. But gosh, I didn't realise we had so many police in this part of the country. They probably brought them in from all over for overtime. So I hope you're all keeping well. Last weekend, I attended and spoke at the Alternative View 6 conference at Daventry in England, and it was a great experience. It was much better than last year for lots of reasons. I think this year it was different because so many people are in the same mindset that I am, and they're sick and tired of hearing about the same old shite over again, and are interested in solutions. And it's funny how it's kind of come full circle, and people are talking about things like looking for civil rights lawyers to work pro bono to overturn freedom of speech, suppression laws, and all these kinds of things. And it was very refreshing to hear that. There was very little woo-woo, and it was mostly about, let's get our shit together and start doing things. And I was even talking to people who were involved in like these kind of like alternative local groups, and they're sick and tired of having some guy on a stage talking about a triangle or an all-seeing eye or where 666 is hidden in different things. And they're sick of all that stuff, and they want to go out and do things like have a community watch for the old people in the neighbourhoods to make sure they're safe, and those kinds of things. I mean, real proactive, on-the-ground stuff. And I have to say, it was hugely encouraging, and I came away, on the Monday morning we all left, I had never seen so many happy faces and big smiles on people. It was really, really beautiful. And it was beautiful because people have a mission, a quest, rather than talking about the same things over and over again. It's sickening. And I delivered a talk, which I'm going to talk about a similar subject here tonight. And although I have to say half of my presentation was probably closer to a stand-up comedy routine, which was probably accidental, but that's just how I am. I'm a funny guy. And I was in such a good mood. I was just letting it rip. And everyone seemed to be very happy with that. So that's good. And I came out and admitted that I used to be, my name used to be Goldberg. And so it felt like a cleansing to get that out, that I used to be called Mr. Goldberg. That's my old name. And so that was a real cleansing. I don't have to live this lie anymore. I felt like a gay guy coming out of the closet. So that was nice to do as well. And so you'll see, when the video comes out, you'll see me admit this with tears in my eyes, and how cathartic that moment was for me, telling people my name was Goldberg. And so this is life, and this is how it is, and this is where we are. Now, last week, I can see all the anti-Semites all like rushing off my YouTube page right now, typing my name in, looking for pictures of me with a yarmulke and that kind of thing. But that's another good thing too. We're going to rout all those idiots out. Them and the flat earthers. We're going to rout both of them out of this scene and also the super nonce maniacs, because they're actually the ones bringing the whole alternative media down with their deliberate. They're just the mass hysteria that deliberately puts people off because it's been designed that way. So last week's show on the Irish and Celtic mythology went down very, very well. And I was delighted to see this positive response to it, because this is where I'm heading from now on. I'm not going to be doing any more, like I basically retired from this scene at the weekend. And I'm not going to be doing anything to do with politics, unless it's kind of in a historical framework. I'm not going to be doing anything to do with current events, because the way I see it is, okay, there's lots of people who say things like, I don't watch mainstream TV anymore because I'm sick of the programming and the propaganda. But they're doing the same thing in alternative media. They're living the same life, and they're too dark and too deep into that, and they need to decouple from that also. And I'm not interested anymore. Now, there's loads of people doing fantastic work out there doing alternative news that's not sensationalist and it's not silly. And by all means, I encourage people to keep listening to that. But it's and support those people. But it's not me. It's me. You know, I'm the problem. You know, it's like a relationship that's breaking up. It's not me. It's you. It's not you. It's me. It's me. But it's really like that. So that's how it is. I just wanted to, so last week's show about the mythology, that's where we're going to be mostly going from now on. I'm going to be talking about that, art, sociology, archaeology, alternative history, mysteries, all those kinds of things. I'm just not interested in looking over current events, other than maybe making a joke about it, you know, that kind of thing. I might make a joke, like I'll still do the comedy. The comedy thing will be a huge part of this, but like that's the only way I'll bring current events into it. Like, you know, if I wanted to do Alex Jones, Alex Jones, welcome to the Matrix. We have Prince Charles and Camilla. They visited Mulletmore and County Sligo today. NWO, where the IRA blew their uncle Mountbatten to pieces while he was out tuna fishing. Yeah, chemtrail gases in the sky, security lockdown, FEMA camps. Yeah, that'd be a good idea. Carry on FEMA camping. Yeah, I'm going to make a new film. Carry on FEMA camping. Woo! Camping. When he says FEMA camp, it's like FEMA camp. It's like the complete opposite of when you think of like camp, like woo, ducky, and it's a FEMA camp. So it's like, you know, so camp. That'd be a funny one I should do in future. Quentin Crisp being interviewed by Alex Jones. Mr. Crisp, what have you done to fight the New World Order? Incoming chemtrail bombers. Anyway. Yeah, there'll be loads of that, but I'm really, really digging this whole kind of mythology thing, this art thing, all that stuff. And please continue to support the non-hysterical news sites. And but I'm not interested in doing that. I don't think you really particularly care about me doing it anyway. But anyway, so that was great. I'm actually really buzzing, and I have ideas. How about this for an idea? I'd like your feedback on this. I'm thinking of doing like the old radio serials, like The Archers or Flash Gordon, the old drama serials, those kinds of things. I'm thinking of doing one about a mythological story, maybe some kind of idea like that with like voices and sound overs and effects, maybe a 15-minute show, 15-minute serial in the Velocity of Now each week or something like that. It'd be something I'd really like to try my hand at. Like the idea of like a story being told, like in a serial format, because I'm really about recapturing the magic of old radio. And people tell me when they listen to the show, they actually feel like it was listening to the radio with their grandmother when they were kids, or their parents. And I really like that idea. That's one thing that I miss off radio, is the idea of the drama serial. So maybe I'll do something like that. That kind of interests me. Maybe I can get some other people to do female voices and stuff, and we can mix them and put sound effects on them. So let me think about that one. I could write up I have a kind of a mythological story in the back of my head, and we could do something like that, an alternative, serial strip on the Velocity of Now, that kind of thing. So the bulk of my talk was it Sunday or Saturday? I think it was Sunday. I can't. Yeah, it was Sunday. Yeah, it was on before Max Egan came on and after Patrick Henningsen. And yeah, so the bulk of the talk was about something I want to talk about tonight, and something that really interests me, and something I think is far more profound and far more important than people realize. I'll give you an example. Changes in technology, they have a, shall we say, a sociological effect. So we had the steam age, the industrial age, right? That was driven by two things, water power and steam power. Now, for the water power to happen, rivers had to be changed. They had to have dams built, their courses changed so they could turn water wheels, to run mills. And then later on it was steam power. Now people needed coal to do that. So it created coal mining towns and coal industries. And people's lives were determined by this. So you would have cultures that grew up around coal mining. Now the human spirit is such that it has a tremendous ability to resolve itself in any kind of situation. So you had, like, say, in the north of England, these coal mining towns, as dependent as they were on the coal mining and as hard as their life was, some beautiful culture grew up out of that. Some beautiful communities grew up out of that have been sadly lost ever since Margaret Thatcher. Ever since Margaret Thatcher and the miners' strike back in 1985 and 1886 smashed those communities forever. And even though those people who lived in those places in Lancashire and Yorkshire, their lives were extruded out of toil and hard and often dangerous work, their humanity shone through, but still they were determined by the changes in technology. So you would have this idea of there was a film called Brassed Off with the late great Pete Postlethwaite, and what's his name? Ewan McGregor, is that his name? The guy that was in Trainspotting. And it's about a brass band in the north of England who is trying to win a competition in London at the time when the pits are being closed. The same story was also in Billy Elliot, that film. It's a very nice movie too. And I can see you on it. Sheridan is promoting homosexuality. He likes the movie. Billy Elliot. No, I'm not. I thought it was actually a lovely film in many ways. But anyway, yeah. So we're forever determined by the technological changes. It impacts upon us socially and culturally. You just have to look at all those Bruce Springsteen songs about, the steel mills closing down in New Jersey and all that kind of thing, and it's all about that. But things change. Things are different now, because when the Luddites in England were smashing machineries and factories, they quite rightly saw people as being slaves to these things. That was the idea, and that it was going to abolish normal human interaction, and it did. But what happened as a result was that people being so beautiful, and humans being so beautiful and resilient, they rose above it and created beautiful cultures and everything to go with it. So what are we in today? We're in the digital age. Now, what I want to talk about is the transition from analog to digital technology, particularly in electronics, and how it is detrimental in a sociological and cultural sense. Now, I can hear you all screaming, Sheridan, he doesn't like digital technology. No, I don't say that. I'm talking about how it affects the sociological aspects, the spin-off aspects of that. We will always become, in many ways, a kind of a reflection of technological changes in society. It'll always impact upon us. Just like I said, the coal mines in England and the steel mills in America and all over the world, they produced their own unique cultures that were spawned out of those particular lifestyles, industries, whatever, exploitations, whatever you want to call them. Just like folk music came out of farming and agriculture and things like that. Well, the issue with digital electronics is not so much the digital electronics itself, but the migration of that kind of thinking from technology and into a sociological and cultural construct, if you get my drift. Now, one of the things I said that I thought I was going to be bollocked out of it by the other speakers there on Sunday was that I am sick and tired of hearing people talk this new age nonsense of people talking about we are a biological computer. We're not a biological computer. We're not even close to that. Computers run on binary code. Well, modern computers run on binary code. And we are not a series of ones and zeros. That is absolute new age transhumanist guff. Even the DNA sequences in our genes, even though the switches are on and off, it's a biochemical electrical impulse from the brain, predominantly, that on the nervous system, that causes those genes to switch on and off. So ultimately it comes back to the chemicals and electricity generated by the heart and the brain. We're not digital. We're absolutely not in any way digital. We're analog. We're not a biological computer. What we're much closer to is a biological radio transmitter receiver. We are pure, smooth analog waves. Now, when you go to this YouTube version of this, you will see a graphic there that will demonstrate the difference between a digital wave and an analog wave. Now, I spoke at the conference. I talked about my background. I was an electronic hobbyist when I was a kid. I built walkie-talkies from old old AM radios, transistor radios. I built metal detectors to find coins on the beach, which I did very successfully. I built walkie-talkies, and I actually built a radio transmitter that powered a small local radio station that worked just in a few blocks around the flats I grew up in Ballymun. And it was tremendous and wonderful and magical. The electronic dance of the electron and all these components, the capacitor, which creates the discharge. That impulse, it's a wand. It was like an electronic wand that creates pulses. You had the diode, which allowed the current to go one way and not another way. You had transformers, which allowed either to step up or drop down the voltage. And they worked by two coils that didn't even touch each other. It was induction, and the electrons jumping across a negative space. It was pure magic. I mean, I could just go on and on how the LED was discovered when a guy spilled chemicals on his table that he noticed that lit up when he passed electronic. Like classic story of something amazing being developed by accident. Rectifiers turning AC into DC. And all they were was a series of 4 diodes you could pull out of an old TV set and solve them. I mean, this is the stuff I used to love. And then this thing came along called an integrated circuit, a 555 processor. I think it was made by International Telephone and Technology, ITT, whatever that company was called. And basically it was the beginning of... Now, the thing was a very useful device because it allowed people to build a lot of guitar effects and things like that. It was using phase shifters and wah-wah pedals and stuff. So there was an element of that was kind of neat about it. But it was ultimately based on the idea of electronic switches, on, off, 1, 0. And then that gave birth to logic circuits and or not gates and this kind of thing. And so for me, electronics stopped being fun then. It suddenly became just pulses that were very cold and on-off switches where you had this pulse of the pulse of the digital signal where you had the 1, which is a pulse up, positive, and a 0, which was the flatlined, neutral, nothing would happen. And from that, everything was created in terms of information and everything from music, you name it, the lot, speech, everything, even the actual functioning of the electronic circuit was created the same way. Yeah, it was a quantum leap, there's no doubt about that. But we lost something because the analog electronic wave was a beautiful, smooth wave. It was everywhere, and it was everywhere. Now, The first thing, the first negative aspect of this was electrosmog. Now, people who say about we shouldn't have any electrosmog, it's all dangerous. Electrosmog was everywhere, everywhere. We're going back. Let's talk about human technology. Electrosmog was there back 100 and odd years ago, when you had telegraph, and then telephones, and then radio transmission, shortwave radio transmissions, long band, medium band, frequency modulation, very high frequency, ultra high frequency, CB bands, you name it, they were all there. Police radio bands, marine bands, military bands, everywhere. And yet it had no negative effects on people because it was analog. It was an analog sine wave. Then we had the digital explosion came along, and electrosmog has only become a problem because it's become digitized. Because the waveform is not smooth. Now how they like, I'm looking at a recording of this program right now, and I'm looking at an analog expression of a digitally recorded waveform, and it looks like a traditional, sine wave. But that's not how it really is. If I was to go into that and zoom in and zoom in and zoom in and zoom in on that wave, eventually I would see the 0 and 1 digital binary code. It's not a smooth transmission. So you have this binary code causing electrosmog, affecting us culturally. This is where it gets very interesting for me. Now, I've nothing against electronic music. There's nothing, electronic music when it first started off is still, when you listen to the old Brian Eno stuff and all those prog rock bands like Hawkwind and Can and Gong and Van der Graaf Generator and Tangerine Dream, they were still analog sounds that they used. Even the early, synth pop bands, they were still using the analog synths. And it wasn't when the digital synth thing came along, you had this kind of idea of the robotic man, the robot. And this is where it becomes worrying for me. Because if you look at how an analog wave is expressed, it's a smooth flowing wave. There's no harsh up and there's no harsh down. There's grey areas. Between the trough in the wave and the peak in the wave, there's a slow transition. It's a smooth transition. It's very, very natural because these waves exist in nature. That's just pouring in from outer space, from the stars and planets. These are the sounds and the signals that are picked up by electronic microscopes. Telescopes, like Jodrell Bank in England and the big one in Puerto Rico. I forget what it's called, but they're sine waves. They flow. They resemble what is in nature. They're like the flow of the ocean, the tides. They're like the flow of the winds. They're our human speech patterns. Our heartbeat is the same way. A heart doesn't go on one and off one. A heart has an attack and a decay moment like a musical note on a guitar or a piano. There's an attack, a peak, and a decay. But in a digital signal, there's on and off. Now let's apply an on and off, 0 and 1 idea to human behavior. Suddenly, the bonkers new age idea that we are a digital computer goes right out the window, unless you want a totalitarian existence. Dogma and cults. You have a cult or a dogma where everything is what the cult does and what the cult says, and there's no grey area. That's digital thinking. Soldiers in the military, I'm not paid to think, I'm paid to kill. That's digital thinking. All this scientism on the TV, all these debunkers on the internet who debunk everything, there's no grey area for them. It's either scientifically explained or you're a tard. 0 and 1. This mentality, if you go back to the old days, you look up, I've got an article on my website which talks about, shows an old magazine called The Electronic Constructor, and it's electrical constructor, and it shows that scientific people in the past, in the pre-binary digital age, did not think like that. They were much more relaxed and easygoing about something being mysterious. It was either solvable or it was a mystery to be solved, and if it wasn't solvable, it was interesting. In the digital age, it's either scientifically explained or you're a turd. You're a turd. And there's no grey area in between. The same thing happens in politics. You may have something that's conspiratorial, right? So it may not be the full-on mad conspiracy, but it may be elements of political conspiracy in there. And instead of, in the old days, you would say, well, Lee Harvey Oswald probably did shoot JFK, but it doesn't explain the shot from the grassy knoll. It doesn't explain certain other behaviours like Lee Harvey Oswald's activities in the Soviet Union. It doesn't explain Jack Ruby, and so on and so forth. Where in the digital age, it's like, there was no conspiracy, you retard. And that's a 0 and 1 digital mentality. Completely. So the digital age has impinged itself culturally upon us. I often wonder, is this where all this Asperger's is coming from? Anyone who knows anyone who has Asperger's people tend to be, but they can change, they can be worked with. Humour is very good to help them. They tend to be very literal, very 0 and 1. They don't see the subtle grey areas of the sine wave. Everything is like, I don't understand what that means. What do you mean? That's digital thinking. You see what I'm saying? We're transferring, and you lot in the alternative media, you lot who think, I'm so spiritual in the New Age. I'm so spiritual. I'm a spiritual alternative thinker. Yet you are so quick to dehumanize people who are, maybe figures in the alternative media, because you have not the ability to stand back and say, this is a bit harsh, this looks like it's been posted out of context to make the person look bad. No, you instantly jump in. You instantaneously jump in like the brainwashed sheeple 2.0 that you are when you're calling everyone else sheeple, because you cannot sit back, so many of you, and rationally and maturely see the grey areas. It's all either 0 or 1 or on and off. In that sense, you are very much a biological computer. Well, let me tell you something. You're anything but a fucking human being. That's what you're not. Because you're seeing everything in absolutes and nothing in terms of the relative. And the relative is everything. Everything in the cosmos is about the relative. Show me a straight line in the universe. Show me binary code in nature. That's a good one for you. I'm a biological computer having a 5-sense reality, and I'm here having a 5-sense, because I'm a biological computer. I saw the Matrix movie and all those zeros and ones falling down. I haven't got a clue what it means, but I'm a biological computer. No, you're not, you moron. You're not. You're so stupid. You only think that because the Matrix, that dumbass shoot-'em-up movie, had all zeros and one falling down, and you cannot, because of your digital 0 and 1 mind, you cannot see the grey areas. Sit back and see that's just a dumbass shoot-'em-up movie. There's nothing deep or mystical about the Matrix film. It's a load of shite. It's just another shoot-'em-up movie. It's rubbish, actually. The Matrix is a shit film. All of them are. I've seen them all. They're crap. But somehow, because they have something to do with the 5-sense holographic universe, which they don't, by the way, it's supposed to be. It's so deep and profound. I had such a spiritual experience watching the bullet go through that guy's head in the Matrix. Listen to yourself. I do believe in the holographic universe, But I don't believe it functions as zeros and one, not for a second. Because if you go down to quantum theory, that doesn't have zeros and ones in it. It doesn't even have ones. It doesn't even have zeros. It's so strange. So who came up with this idea that the holographic universe was binary codes of zeros and one? I'll tell you who. Stupid fucking New Agers. That's who. That's who came up with it. New Age gurus. That's who came up with it. People who shouldn't be talking about this stuff because they haven't a fucking clue. The double split experiment and quantum entanglement has absolutely shag all to do with binary code. Even at the basic level, you should know that. But you don't, because you watch The Matrix with green zeros and one falling down. Oh, it's spiritual, it's science, it's scientific. Anyway, it's closer to analog. The waves, look, they're waves down there, folks. They're waves. They're not on and off switches of digital codes. That is a human construct. Now let's look at the actual physical structure of the sine wave and compare it to, if you're on YouTube, look at that graphic on the screen right now, to the digital wave. Imagine, if you will, that both the digital wave and the sine wave were mountains. Perfectly square mountains for the digital wave and rolling hills for the sine wave. And you had the sun low in the sky at about 30 degrees shining across both waves. First we will look at the analog wave. The sun hits the peak of the hills. It casts a shadow on the side away from the hill, but the shadow is not a strong shadow because it fades off into the valley and then fades out as it rises up the other side of the hill. And even with that, there will be reflective light from the hill wave on the other side into the shadow. So there's no totality. There's no absolute darkness. There's grey area. There's more grey area than there's darkness. Now let's apply the sun shining on top from the same, say, 30, 35 degree angle at the ridge of binary waves, up and down, ones and zeros. What do you have on the other side of the square? Absolute black 45 degree void, abyss, total blackness. You'll see that on the graphic if you're looking at it right now. On and off. Dogmatic thinking. And it's in that darkness, my friends. It's in that absolute totality of the shadow behind the behind the digital wave, where the demons dwell. That is the womb of pathology, because that is where dogma lies. It's absolute. There is no grey area. It's 45 degrees. A triangle, and there's one for you conspiracy guys to think about. A triangle of blackness where there's no reflective light, where there's no escape, and the shadow ends in absolute totality with a demarcation line. You're either in the game or you're out of the game. You're not allowed to be a human. You're not allowed to be complex. Human beings are incredibly complex creatures. People who validate dehumanize people according to not them being perfect every time are digital demons. Are you digitally demonized, or are you digitally demon infected? You often hear me talk about infected people. You can just look at them. Their faces are dead. Their eyes are dead. Their skin has no features. They're dead. They're demonically infected. When I say demon now, I'm talking metaphor. Because they live in a world of absolutes where everyone has to be perfect around them. Of course, that rule never applies to them. Everyone has to be perfect around them, or they are wrong. or dangerous or wicked or evil. You see that at the flat earth loons, the flat earth morons, and that's what you are. You're so stupid. Well, you're so stupid that I bet every single day of the week, the CIA, thank God that there's people dumb enough to believe that the earth could be flat. But you're so stupid, and you are, and I'm not saying this to mock you, I'm saying this because I want to help you, because I want your life to be I want your life to be better. I don't want your friends, I don't want you socially isolated, your friends and family leaving you and having nothing. I want you to have a full, enjoyable life. If you're a guy, I want you to get laid. You won't get that if you tell a woman, unless she's some kind of simpleton, like a Mooney wife or something like that, or a cult wife. You won't get them to they won't make love to you. It's simple as that. They won't you. And why should they want you? Even your right hand shouldn't want you when you want to like pull yourself off. You shouldn't be allowed to have that. Now, that's because you're in the absolute totality. The earth must be flat because someone said this. No, you haven't. You're digital. You can't sit back and examine the evidence. Max Egan gave a great talk on the flat earth, said he could actually sit there and make a presentation that would last several slides and have people believing the earth was flat. Because you can get some people to believe anything these days. Anything. Just by giving them the right brainwashing, mind-numbing slideshow. They'll believe it. And pick selective evidence that looks and makes them feel like they're more clever than anyone else. But that's the kind of thing, that's digital thinking. I know the earth is round because lots of things. You know the earth is flat because of nothing. My favourite one was when someone said that there's only one photograph of the earth from space and NASA took it. There's thousands. You muppets, you morons, you fools. There are thousands of pictures. NASA is not the only space agency. There's also the European Space Agency, and on my own Facebook page I have beautiful pictures taken of the Earth as a sphere from space, taken by the Russians. The Indians and the Chinese have also taken pictures of the Earth from space, from far out, showing it's a sphere. God help you. I'm trying to get you back to normal. Now listen to me. That's because you've been made digital in both directions. You haven't been. You have no flux. You don't have that. You have no flux. You have to learn to be flux. You have a better life. You have a much better life if you're willing to accept that you were wrong or led down the garden path. That life is much better. When you defend it, rather because you think you have to defend it, you've got digital mind. You've got digital thinking. You are digitally demonized and digitally demon infected. You really are. In that shadow, in that abyss, it's like when you join a cult. My cult leader no, they're never cult leader. My teacher at the Infinite Quantum Experience Group school tells me that I gotta eat sausages with a pink fork on a Wednesday and then do dervish dancing for 4 hours and I will achieve spiritual perfection because that's what she said. That's what he said. That's what the aliens told them. You see, that's digital thinking. You're not able to think for yourself. Look, sit back and say, hey, maybe eating sausages is fine, but I'm not going to fucking dance for 4 fucking hours. Or while they're telling me that I have to do these rules to be spiritual, what are they doing in fancy restaurants or driving around in a limo? You see, that's digital thinking again. You've lost the ability to see outside the world as absolutes. Everything is grey. And they want this. The control grid wants this. They want digital people. They don't want anyone to have that beautiful dance of analog in their soul. They don't want that. And it's driving transhumanism. I can tell you for a fact that whole New Age thing of we are a binary computer having a 5-sense experience in a holographic digital reality. I can tell you that was completely made up by the CIA and all the other pro-transhumanist groups, to make you believe that you're a robot. I'm just a robot. No, you're not. You're not a robot. Get that thinking out of your head. You're not a robot. You're a human being. They'll never make a robot anything like you. No matter what your New Age guru tells you, you're not a robot. Biological, 5 sense reality or otherwise. You're more like a dance of various frequencies and radio waves. And they're all pulsating, and they're working different parts of your physiology, your biology, and your neurochemical things. And within that, you're living in a world of frequencies, of sine waves. When you talk to someone, when you kiss a beautiful girl, when you watch her dancing, when you listen to a fantastic piece of music, when you're having this lovely bowl of ice cream, it's all a dance. It's an analog experience. You don't pick up a vanilla. You don't have. Say you have a beautiful meal in front of you, right? You don't, and it says it just says chicken curry, right? You don't pick it up and instantly taste chicken curry. There's a plethora of sensations of all the different spices, the tart flavors, the sweet flavors, and they dance an analog symphony around your taste buds. It's just not an on and off experience. McDonald's is like that. The chicken McNugget, it just tastes like a chicken McNugget. There's no other taste. It's just got the taste of mass slaughter of animals, the death energy of the animals in the battery farms in it. But otherwise, you don't have that. It's like if someone loves you, get them to make you a cup of tea or make you a salad or make you a meal, and you'll know if they love you or not, because you will see that, you will feel and taste that love in the food. That symphony of flavors and emotions coming out of it. This is analog. It's not digital. When you have a beautiful salad in front of you, it's not salad 1.0. It's not that. It's an analog dance of different flavors and sensations. And then they convert it to nutrients and minerals, and they dance through your body as sine waves, working turbocharging your nervous system, your heartbeat, your brain waves, your everything. It's not digital. Get that stuff out of your head. So they're trying to digitize us to move us closer to this idea that we're just robots. A lot of cults say that as well. A lot of cult leaders will tell their members, what do you care if you die? It's just a body. And that's the same thing with the transhumanists, isn't it? What does it matter? It's just a body. We can digitize your brain, digitize your. They're absolutely out of their minds. Digitize your soul and put you in a box, and you can live forever as a digital program. Except, motherfuckers, we're not digital. We're analog. And this is where you get all this. This is where all this unhappiness is coming from. People are seeing themselves as absolutes. I'm a digital person. I have a digital life. I either have a good job or I'm a loser. I either have a beautiful wife and girlfriend or I'm a loser. I'm either getting laid 4 times a week or I'm a loser. I'm either making 200 grand a year or 200,000 a year or I'm a loser. There's absolute no. That's all digital thinking, digital culture. There's none of this. Well, I don't have a wife who's like, Playboy model beautiful. But my God, she knows how to cuddle and kiss me and take care of me when I'm sick more than anyone else. She makes the most beautiful food. My dad doesn't look like Mr. Universe. He doesn't look like Brad Pitt. But when I was a kid, he taught me how to do this. He taught me how to do that. That kind of thing. My friends are not glamorous. They're not rich. But I know if I ever had an accident or I need them at 4 o'clock in the morning, they'll be there. Analog and digital. Racists are incredibly digital. Our race, our religion is the best. Their race, their religion is not. Digital. 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 You see how horrible it is to live like that? How miserable it is to live like that? Where you put yourself in a life of complete and absolutes. Whereas, you might meet someone of a certain race and they're a pain in the ass. But when you're not digital, you say to yourself, Oh, she's just a dickhead. It doesn't matter if their skin colour, doesn't matter if her religion. She's just a shithead. That's analog thinking. That's grey area thinking. And that now leads us into religion. Jehovah is the digital god. You must do as Jehovah tells you, or you're a sinner. Zoroastrianism, the creation of, 5,000 years ago in Persia, where there was good and evil. What's that? Good and evil. 0 and 1. Binary code, on and off. Where in our beautiful heathen religions that existed all over the world before that, our gods were filled with flaws. Odin made mistakes. Odin wasn't perfect. Odin was constantly trying to improve himself. Odin was subject to the same fates as mortal men. His wife Freya used to argue with him, and this idea was all over the place. The gods were not perfect because they were not Jehovah. Jehovah is the digital god. On, off. Good, bad. Saint, sinner. Digital, 0, 1. How about, yeah, he fucked up, but he's actually a decent guy. Yeah, she ran off on her husband, but maybe he wasn't taking care of her properly. Maybe she wasn't right for him. That's analog thinking. Balance. Not absolutes. Oh my God, the economy is in danger. I'm finished. Digital thinking. Oh my God, the economy's in danger. So what? I'll survive somehow. I'll still have my abilities and talents. Analog thinking. Oh my God, this marriage is going through a terrible crisis. We're fighting all the time. Let's get divorced. That's it. Digital thinking. Oh my God, this marriage is falling apart. Why? How can I address it? Is it my fault? Analog thinking. All my exes are psychopaths because I'm perfect. Digital thinking. Maybe I'm fucked up and that's why men don't stay with me. Maybe I gotta improve myself. Analog thinking. Grey area. No absolutes. Self-reflection. That's the reflective light on the sine wave. Look at the graphic on the page. Now, which is a better way to live? Where you put up all these imaginary goals that you have to attain, and if you don't reach them, you're a failure, you're a loser, you're an idiot. Or do you have these aspirations to achieve certain objectives? And if you don't achieve them, along the way you say to yourself, well, that business I started, it failed. But you know what? I learned an awful lot that if I was to try it again, I probably would succeed. Or I've learned enough about myself to know I shouldn't be in business. What I'll do is I'll try something else. That's analog thinking. Digital thinking. My business failed. Where's the Prozac? Digital thinking. My child is a little bit wild. I'm going to put him on Ritalin. You see how it is? The migration of the digital age has transferred itself into our cultures to the point where it's making us deeply unhappy. And the only person that can ever be happy in a digital construct, a digital, socio-digital reality is a psychopath. Either as a cult leader, a totalitarian dictator, or an absolute monster. Hidden from view and manipulating everyone from that triangle of darkness in the shadow of the digital pulse. And it makes you wonder, is that why so many people are choosing to be autistic? Are they are they opting out of the world? Are people Asperger's? Are they going that way because they're desperately trying to survive in this digital environment? I'm meeting less and less people who are relaxed and easygoing. I'm meeting more and more robots. I'm meeting robots on psych meds. That's really what the digital solution is creating, the digital revolution. And culturally, it's creating people with no personality, the Bill Gateses of this world, or people who are still an exploding, dynamic, analog human spirit inside who are desperately trying to compress themselves into the digital reality, and what they are broken people on psych meds. This is a huge topic. I practically got a standing ovation the other day talking about this because no one had brought this up. It's a big one. It's a biggie. Is the digital age killing the human race? I think it is. Not on a technological level, but I think socially it's becoming very damaging. All these people who wanted to go into the Venus Project, they were digitized people. They'd forgotten what it was like to be human. They'd forgotten what being native, going native, growing your own food, that's analog. That's analog living. Going into the techno gulags of the Venus Project is digital thinking. I must have everything. Dame arigato, Mr. Roboto. And this whole thing of like, in years to come, people will be having sex with robots. I think that will happen. But that's not the same thing as having an emotional... I've yet to meet a woman who had an emotional relationship with her dildo or a vibrator. It just doesn't happen. But yet, I've met several men who've had an emotional relationship with a prostitute or a call girl. Now, what does that tell you? Humans are incredibly complex. We cannot be brought down to ones and zeros. We cannot be digitized and remain human. The only way out of that is the destruction of the self and the annihilation of the psyche, either through dogmatic brainwashing and programming or psych meds or something like that. And even escapism that will only work for so long. Escapism, that's why so many people are obsessed with extreme sports and all this stuff today. They're desperately trying to be human in a digital world. One of the things I like about being Irish is that we're still a bit mad. I cherish that. You know, the old story of the guy waiting in the train station in Ireland, and this visiting tourist from Germany says, "I don't know why you have the damn timetables. The trains are always late." And the Irish guy goes, "Well, if we didn't have the timetables, we wouldn't know how late the trains were." That's logic. That is absolute logic. But it's also a good way to live. It's much more healthy. It's a better way to live. Native people lives like that. All our indigenous European, all our ancestors, no matter where in the world they came from, all lived like that. They was like, doesn't work out, we'll do something else. That's analog living. These days, it has to be absolute. It has to be perfect. And this is where lack of self-reflection comes from. And when you have a lack of self-reflection, when you don't want to, or you're told by a digital society that I can't look in the mirror at myself and find my faults, what you then do is you project them onto others. Jeremy Kyle, Jerry Springer, etc., etc. I have that video that you saw on my YouTube channel, Thomas Sheridan Arts, about where I showed that the magazine Closer that basically deals with celebrities having B-list celebrities or Z-list celebrities having a hard time, that they often put a picture of them under their logo, and the C in Closer is very hidden, so it says loser. It's reflected all across our society. It comes from America. That's not to say Americans are the cause of it. Americans are the first victims of this. You gotta be the best. You gotta be number one. You gotta succeed, or you're a loser. You're a loser. You're either a 1, and if you're not a 1, you're a 0. Well, I say, to hell with the zeros and 1. I want to be all the numbers and all the possibilities and all the dynamic fluctuations between those two extremes, between those absolutes. I want to be a wave. I want to fluctuate like a wave. I want to live like a wave. I want to be like I want to be like the wind. What did Bruce Lee say about the nature of water? Water can be held in a cup. It can turn to steam, or it can splash on the ground. Water always finds its equilibrium. It adapts to changes. Be like the nature of water, my friend. What Bruce Lee was saying is, follow the analog path. Follow the analog path. Don't be a digital. Don't be digitized. Don't become a robot. Remain human. And all this stuff that they tell us we're just digital machines and all this stuff, and the New Ages are the worst at it, it's all transhumanist propaganda. So digital electronics, great. Computers, great. But that has migrated, like all our other previous social and cultural and economic revolutions, it has migrated over into human society, into our sociology, into our culture, and even into our souls. And this is the one that has no grey area. You can go down a coal mine, dig coal, and in the darkness of that coal, write a song or a story in your head, come back up and develop a culture. But if you're in a digital world, everything must conform to the 0 or the 1. On, off. You are not a microprocessor. You are a dance of glorious analog frequencies that cover a whole bandwidth of spectrums. Everything from ultraviolet to radio waves to sound waves and everything in between. All dancing in a bioelectrical, chemical fusion. And it's beautiful, just like everything else in nature. There's sine waves and analog waves of all the potentials in the universe and the cosmos pouring into us from outer space every day of the week, from the sun to distant galaxies, and it all comes into us. And not one of them is a straight line, and not one of them is a digital signal of zeros and ones. Be analog and maintain your humanity. I'm Thomas Sheridan. This is the Velocity of Now. Thank you very much.